Hey everybody, how are you? I hope you're having a wonderful day. So, it is a Friday afternoon. It's kind of windy outside, so I hope that doesn't really kill the sound quality of the video. But it is sunny. There hasn't been any rain for a couple days, so it's a good day to be out in the garden. So, today I just want to do a couple things. What I want to do today is I want to do some deadheading around the garden because we've got some things that need to be um, trimmed and manicured a little bit in the garden to keep it looking nice. And then I want to do some seed starting. I've got some seeds over here. Let's see. I've got carrot seeds. I want to try the carrot seeds again because they didn't do anything the last time I planted them, and I always have good fortune with carrot seeds. They always do well for me. I've also got cucumber, so I want to start the cucumber. I've got some arugula, and the arugula we'll talk about a little bit later, but the arugula, it says cool and warm, but with this I'm going to have to act fast because once it starts to grow, once it starts to sprout and grow, I'm going to have to really watch it and get to it before, harvest it before it wilts. So we're going to have to be really careful with this one. And I've got some bush beans. So we'll talk more about that later, but first I want to do some deadheading. So before we go into deadheading, we got to talk about the difference between deadheading and pruning because there is a definite difference. So pruning is something that we do with plants once, maybe twice in the season. It rejuvenates them. We do pruning mostly with perennials. We cut them back to give them a fresh start so they can come back and grow again and flesh out new blooms again. So usually we'll prune, sometimes we'll prune in the fall after the season is done, and then the perennials will go to sleep for the winter, and then they'll come back in the spring. You can also wait and leave your vegetation so the insects and wildlife will have something, the insects will have something to live on, the wildlife will have something to eat during the winter, and you can prune in spring, and your plants will still come back, and the vegetation and the flowering will still come back normal. That's pruning. Deadheading is a little bit different. Deadheading is something that we do, it's more for the aesthetic value of the plant. So we deadhead plants after they bloom, and not every plant needs it. Some plants don't need to be deadheaded, but we normally deadhead plants after they bloom in order to just keep them looking nice. Because sometimes the dead blooms, the old blooms look bad, for lack of a better word. They don't look good. And you want your garden to look fresh, and you want your garden to look nice, and you want your garden to look alive. Now, this is a personal preference. Some people deadhead, some people just leave it alone and let it be wild. This is totally up to you. But today, I'd like to deadhead some things. So let me see if I can show you some examples. So here we're looking at one of the dahlias in the garden. So it's doing well. It's got some nice fresh blooms, and it's got some buds that will keep coming. And the dahlia will bud out continually, and it'll keep going and giving new flowers. But when the flowers get old, they start to look like this sometimes. And they start to get a little bit brown. And they're not as attractive. And it's my preference, and it might not be everybody's, but it's my preference to take these and to snip these off and give them a little fresh life. Let me show you how I do it. So I've got my pruners, and I would just come in and go right under the flower head, and just kind of snip it off. And it doesn't do any damage to the flower. I don't think it does. I don't think it's really for rejuvenation because the flower is going to keep budding whether you deadhead or not. I guess some flowers will bud more if you deadhead, and some flowers you don't really need to, but it's really just to keep the flowers looking nice. So what I want to do today is I want to walk through the garden, and I'm going to take you with me. I want to walk through, and I just want to deadhead, cut off anything that's looking old or ugly or scraggly, anything that's done. If it's still giving, I'm going to leave it. But if it's done, I'm going to cut it off, and then we'll review, and then we'll go into our seed starting. All right? Okay, so let's do it. what I'm being careful of when I go in is I'm being careful because some of these plants are really dense. So I'm being careful to go into a bloom, and I already finished with this one. I just want to show an example, so I'm not going to actually cut anything. But I'm being careful to go in and make sure my snippers, my scissors, or my cutters get right to the bloom that I want. I got to be careful with this one because it's very dense, and I don't want to rush and then accidentally cut off more than I need. I really just want to cut one thing. So I'm going to snip right here, being careful not to get anything else around it in the cutters. And then that's it. And then the finished product is right here, and it looks much better. So this is a job for today. Let's do some pruning. Not pruning. This is a job for today. Let's do some deadheading. Now, the ranunculus I'm going to cut back because as it gets warm, they're not going to survive. These are cold weather plants, so as it gets warm, they're going to start to crumble. So in a couple weeks, I'm going to pull the corm, their bulb, out and store it. But I'm just going to cut it back and leave the foliage so they can, for the next couple of weeks, they can soak up some of the sunlight, and they can photosynthesize, and that'll help them next year to rejuvenate. I'm going to leave this one because she's so pretty. I can't stand to cut her down. And this one too. I'll leave those two standing. All right, so that was deadheading. So thankfully, I don't have that many things in the garden that require deadheading. Most annuals don't require it. Petunias might require a little touching up, but usually their dead blooms just fall right off. So really, I only worry about the dahlias, the roses, and the roses are gonna bloom for a couple more weeks, and then they're gonna take a break. So I can work on pruning them back a little bit just to keep them healthy. And then everything else um, is pretty self-sufficient in the garden. So I won't have to worry about going on and deadheading that often. Just every couple weeks, every 2 to 3 weeks with the dahlias and some of the other plants. Maybe some of the, oh gosh, geraniums. So that's that. I did the front yard, I did the front garden, I did the back garden. So now we're going to talk about seed starting. So let's get set up for that. All right, so I'm here at the side vegetable garden and I'm getting ready to start some seeds. So I'm going to bring you a little closer so you can see. So I've got some seed packets and I want to try, and I'm going to use this area to do it. So this is the side garden of my house, and the whole garden is going to be fruits and vegetables. So in another video, maybe a couple days ago, we planted potatoes and the onion, and I'm going to get some more onion starts because I'm going to get some onion starts because I want to plant some onions in there, some more onions. I have tried onion from seed at least 3 years in a row, and for some reason it just doesn't work for me. I've started it inside, I've started it outside, I've direct sowed, I've started it in containers, in mason jars. I've tried everything. Onions just don't like me. So we're gonna try onion starts, and we're gonna see that onion that we put in the ground the other day. We'll see if that grows. I'm trying to make sure the foam doesn't fall because it's windy outside. It is windy, so I hope you guys can hear me. But what I want to plant today is I have some carrot seeds. Now I planted carrot seeds, I don't remember when, maybe in early April, late March, early April. I planted them. They're a cold weather crop, and I planted them in late March before, actually 2 or 3 years in a row. And I've always had success with them, but this year I planted them literally right here behind me, and oh wait, no, over here next to this monstrosity over here, and absolutely nothing came up. Absolutely nothing. The the broccoli came up, but the carrots didn't come up. So I want to try it again. So we're going to plant some carrot seeds. I also have some cucumber seeds. So I'm going to plant those. I think I'm going to plant those, use this whole bed for cucumber so it can spread out. So I'm going to plant these. I also found some bush beans. So I'm not sure where I'm going to plant these, if I'm going to plant them in the ground or if I'm going to put them in a container. Maybe I'll let the bush beans share with the cucumbers because the cucumbers might not need this whole space. I'll see. I'll see how many seeds I plant. And lastly, I'm going to plant arugula. Now arugula, I've got to be a little bit careful with because arugula, the plant says season cool and warm. But I've got to be a little bit careful because if it starts to get hot, now we've had a really weird spring. We had a really cold winter, just like a lot of us did. But the spring has been kind of slow to warm up, so I'm not sure what these are going to do. I have to watch them because if it gets really warm out and these start to grow, they might try to bolt or go to seed very quickly. So I've got to be sure to watch them so I can harvest them before they go to seed. So this is the area I'm going to use. So let's talk about these beauties over here. So I planted these in around the same time as I planted the carrots, and as you can see, they've already got the seed. This is what we talk about when we say bolting. And I'm going to pull one out just so you can see it up front. So this is the broccoli, and you see up here, it's already starting to set seed. I'm actually going to try to save some of these and see if I can save them for next season. I'm not sure if that's going to work, but basically things got busy. I didn't get out here in time to harvest them, so this plant went to seed. If this plant was in the wild, it would just seed itself all over. But we're not going to let that happen. We're going to use this bed. We're going to pull these up since we're not using it. We're going to use this bed. I have some soil, some garden soil. I have this and I have another bag. one is a potting mix. You can use it here because it's a raised bed. It's almost like for my purposes, it's a raised bed. So I've got some soil and I've got some compost. So I'm just gonna amend the soil, flatten it out, amend it, and put some compost. I'm not gonna put fertilizer. Generally, you do not have to use fertilizer when you plant seeds. You only start using fertilizer usually when your seeds start sprouting. And I usually let mine grow. In fact, I don't think I fertilized really anything last year, and they grew really well. They grew really healthy, and they got what they needed because I had good soil and I had some nice rich compost. But if you're going to fertilize, you usually don't have to fertilize your seeds until after you start to see growth. When they sprout and become seedlings, you can give them a chance to get a little bit more mature, and then you can start fertilizing. All right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull the weeds out of this bed. I'm going to add my amendments, and then we'll start planting. All right, let's go. Now, in my last video when we planted the potatoes, we talked about the no-till method, and we talked about to till or not to till. To be honest, I don't know what camp. I'm not sure what camp I fall into. I don't think I've been gardening long enough to really fall into a camp. I mean, both camps make good points. Basically, the no-till method is where when you're using a garden bed, not for a first time. The first time you use a garden bed, you should till. Because it's never been used for food production before or for flower production. But after that, the recommendation by many gardeners is to not till, not dig up, not use tilling tools, not use your fingers to work the soil or anything like that. The only thing that they recommend is that you would go in, you dig your hole, you put your seed or your plant in, whatever the case may be. That looks like poo, gross. Well, natural fertilizer, but still gross. So you just dig the hole, you put your seed or your plant in. If you're putting a start or a seedling in, then you might want to put a little fertilizer in. If you're just putting a seed in, you don't need any fertilizer. And then you just cover your hole and you leave it alone. You know, cover it with mulch or whatever, mulch, hay, or whatever, compost, whatever you use to stop weeds. That way, you're not disturbing the microbiology that's happening under the plant. You're leaving all that microbiology here, and that's going to help your seed production. That's going to help your plant production. All that stuff, those things are what makes the soil rich and healthy for the plant. And at the same time, you're not kicking up weed spores that have been sitting dormant for the entire winter and early spring. Now, that all sounds good to me, and I kind of like that, but I have to be honest, there's always going to be that part of me that wants to work the soil and just kind of make sure that it's good. You know, this is an outdoor garden. Obviously, although we have fences on our property, there are still stray cats that can get in. They often get in. We sometimes find them sleeping on the porch, and they sometimes use this area as their bathroom. And again, it's natural fertilizer, but I don't know if I want that in my food. You know, you can't control it completely, but if I'm working the ground and I come up on it, I'm gonna dig it out. So that's kind of why I like digging. It also helps me get rid of garbage, refuse from the street that flows in. It gets breezy here, so sometimes garbage from the street, pieces of plastic. I found an old yard sign. Different things come get in here. So I kind of like to just dig around and make sure, especially when we first started, because I found like pieces of glass and things like that that were in here that would have been dangerous had I been, digging around. And that's one of the reasons I wear gloves when I'm working in the ground also, is I'm not sure what I'm going to find, and I'm not as confident that it's going to be safe, because when I found that piece of glass, I almost cut myself. I literally put my hand down and missed the glass by a couple inches. I would have cut myself. So when I'm working in the ground, I wear gloves. When I'm working in containers, I go freehand because I just like the feel of the soil. So, I mean, it's your preference. I'm going to probably cover this once I'm done, once seedlings start coming up. I'm probably going to cover this with compost or mulch anyway, just to aid with weed suppression, or I'll plant it so thick that we don't get many weeds. So alright, so this bed looks good. I'm gonna add some soil now. Just a top layer of soil. I'm not gonna add that much because this soil is pretty good. I amended the soil last year, so I don't really need to add much. Alright, so as I'm adding the soil, I'm not digging up that much. I'm actually not digging up at all. I'm just kind of spreading the soil out and making sure it's even. Okay, so I think what I'm gonna do, I think I'm gonna use this side for the arugula, the carrots, and I think I'm gonna use this side for the cucumber. I'll clean that out when we're finished here. I'll use that side for the cucumber. I'll use this side for the arugula and carrots. And maybe I can squeeze the bush beans in here too. Yeah, I like to overestimate what I can do. So let's see if it actually works. Okay, so for the carrots, let's see, it doesn't give us, requests are free. Carrots require light, fluffy soil and full sun, and this area is mostly full sun. Only average fertilizing. I rarely fertilize my carrots and they come out. Well, maybe I should start fertilizing because they were kind of small last year. Alright, so it doesn't give spacing. Oh, wait. 8 to 9. Average 8 to 9 inches long. Yeah, it doesn't really give spacing instructions. So I'm just going to try to remember from last year what I did. And I'm going to use my finger to make the holes because it doesn't have to go very deep. Average fertilizer. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I dug 8 holes over here. And this is what they look like. So not very deep. There we go. And I'll fill 8 holes with a couple. I usually put a couple seeds each in the holes. Okay. Maybe that's what happens. Maybe I planted them a little bit too deep last time. and they didn't get enough sunlight. That could have been what happened. Alright, so I did those. And I'll just cover them up. There's a bug. I don't even know what this bug is called, but it's got a whole bunch of legs. It's not a centipede though. It looks different. It's a different shape than a centipede. After a while, you get used to bugs in the garden. Okay, so these are the carrots. And then I'm going to use the middle for the arugula. So the arugula should give instructions. The arugula seeds and the cucumber seeds I got from Gardenery on Instagram. She's got her own business. She does garden consultation and raised bed consultation, and she sends out seeds every year. I buy seeds from her because her seeds, they grow really well. So we're gonna try this one. Now this one, last year, that's the other thing. This one, the arugula grew last year, but it grew quickly, and we harvested it. But I don't think we ever got to eat it because life. So this year we're gonna eat what we harvest. This year we're gonna set a goal. So prepare the raised bed or well-drained container with 6 inches deep, 4 plus. Choose an area. So direct sow seeds 1 to 3 inches apart. Doesn't quite say how deep. 1 seed per hole. Alright, so 1 to 3 inches apart. Let's start over here, and here, here, and here, here, and here. And I'm being liberal with the spacing rule because Gardenery is the one that taught us to ignore the spacing rules, basically. Things can be planted a little bit closer together. Now it depends on what things. But our vegetables can be planted a little bit closer together. They'll be okay. And having them close together will have the leaves grow in like a canopy that'll cover over the soil so that weeds won't grow as quickly because they're not getting as much sun. That's the theory. Our sun seems to know how to get through, but that's the theory. Okay, and this is what the seeds look like. I didn't show you the last ones. Alright, I know she said 1 per hole, but I'm gonna do 2. I just think it increases the odds. I like to increase my odds. Okay, and then that's it for that. Arugula goes in here. Alright, and then we cover them over. And then finally, I'll do the bush beans over here. I've never done bush beans, so I'm hoping that this is enough room for them. If it's not, I can always move them. So the bush beans gives, okay, it gives instruction. Planting depth is 1.5 to 1 inch. Plant outdoors after danger of frost. Okay, so all my planting holes look the same because I don't measure anything. That would be mast, and mast is just not my favorite thing. Okay, so I created some holes. So I'm just going to put a couple in each hole, and we'll see what happens. Alright. Okay. Oops. And they look like this. They look like regular beans. So I put a couple in each hole. like to increase the odds. And there. And then we cover them over. These I'm going to push in a little bit more because these squirrels will find them. Okay, so everything's covered over. And after we're done with the video, I'll water it in and we'll be good. So now it's time to tackle this side. So I'm going to move you over so you can see what we're doing. How are you, Mr. Butterfly? Alright, so I prepped the bed and now we're ready for our cucumbers. Alright, so these are 12 inches, soil blend. Be sure to have sturdy trellis. I do have the trellis that I would normally use for this. I think I used it on the grapevines. So I have another one. I'm going to have to take that out, but we're not ready for that one yet. Okay, so we're going to make the holes 1/2 inch deep and 12 to 15 inches apart and near the trellis. So we're going to keep the cucumbers on this side and leave this side free because the trellis is going to be over here on the wall, so it's going to be near the trellis. So we'll keep the seeds closer to the back. Trying to open the seed packet with gloves. That's interesting. Just take the gloves off, Trish. Okay, so let's see what the seeds look like. So here's what the seeds look like, nice and dried up. So I'm going to leave them in the envelope while I make the holes. And I think I'll just make a couple rows, one row here and one row here, and I'll leave maybe I will make one row over here. I think I did 3 rows last year. So we'll do 1 row on this side, we'll do 1 row in the middle, and we'll do 1 row in the front, but not too far because we need it to be able to reach the trellis. So I'll just do rows instead of holes. There we go. And again, I'm not being real strict on the spacing. I wasn't that strict on the spacing last year, and I think it came out okay. So, I don't know if you can see it, but these are the rows that we're working with. So let's put some cucumber seeds in them. Oops.
check with their planting day?
I don't know. I just plant when I have time. I don't usually pay attention to the days.
You don't pay attention to them?
No, not really.
Oh,
That's mom's thing.
okay, mother.
So put music over there. All right. Okay, so all my rows have something on it, so now I'm just going to cover it over. Let's put the seeds back first, because I don't want to lose any. I can share these seeds with a friend. So we're going to cover it over. Okay. So we covered it over, and that's about it. Now it's a little anticlimactic because, it's not like you can see anything growing. We'll have to come back. This is a weed. These are weeds. We'll have to come back and see and check on the progress. So I think that's it for today's video. It's getting a little chilly. The sun is going behind the clouds and the wind is kicking up. It's supposed to be windy tomorrow, so I don't know if we're going to be able to video that because we're supposed to get like 20 to 30 mile per hour winds. I'm not sure what's going on with this spring, but I shouldn't complain. I really shouldn't complain. Anyway, so I'm going to water these in. This is what it looks like. It's pretty empty right now, but soon, hopefully, it will look nice and full with plants. So I'm going to water this in. I'm going to clean up the mess, and then once they start growing, we're going to cover them with either compost or mulch. I'll see whichever one is best, or whichever one we can get our hands on easily. All right? So thanks for coming along for the video today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something or you got some inspiration. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, everybody.